Danny.
And I'm Jocelyn.
And we're your hosts for the podcast, Why Can't We Talk About It? Thank you, everyone, for joining us for another episode today. Jocelyn, how have you been?
I have been pretty good. It is springtime here in Durham officially. I know I'm saying that while you're experiencing some snow, but the great pollination or the great pollinating is happening here. It's actually a thing. I don't know why, but apparently this part of the South in the springtime specifically until the weather gets super hot just experiences waves of pollen. Like I will walk out to our parking garage in the morning and the cars are just covered with like a fine layer of yellow. And I'm very lucky. I don't experience allergies, but a lot of people around me, including my dog, are a little bit miserable right now. I'm good though, because it's like 20 degrees and sunny. So I'm living my best life.
Yeah, no, it's pretty good. My first thought was allergy central
Sorry, allergy people.
For a lot of people.
Yeah, not fun.
Wait, dogs get allergies?
I didn't think they did, but apparently they do.
Oh, okay. That's news to me. And I know that. I've never thought about pets or animals in general having allergies.
Just a small anecdote. I didn't realize that that was what Kylo was experiencing. He was just clearly very uncomfortable. His eyes seemed a little bit swollen and he was blinking a lot. This was a couple weeks ago. And, you know, instead of letting him ride it out, I immediately called my husband at work and was like, "You need to come home. Something terrible is happening." I called my mom. I called my dad. I called my vet, and they were booked up. And they said, it's probably fine, but because it's his eyes, you could take him to urgent care just to be sure. Of course I did. And I took him to the urgent care vet, and they were like, yeah, this is just allergies. They gave me eye drops to put in his eyes, and he's completely fine. Yeah, typical overreaction. My dog is my child, okay?
I mean, it's fair, but then I'm just thinking, well, all those pets or animals out there who don't get that kind of care, are they suffering? Oh, okay, it's made me so sad. Thinking about that.
Let's not go down that road. It's like when I watch TikToks and people post TikToks of their elderly dogs, I just bawl my eyes out.
Oh. Okay, let's move on.
Let's move on. Happier things. How are you doing?
I mean, I'm sleepy, but it's all right. I'm just had a change in work shifts. So instead of working at 8:30, I've been working at 6:30. So that definitely disrupts the sleep schedule for me. And I don't know how people do it, but I'm definitely someone who can sleep. I actually made a comment this morning to some of the people on the team. And they're like, oh, yeah, no. I can't even sleep in if I wanted to. I'm like, oh, really? So how late do you sleep in? Like on weekends and stuff? They're like, oh, like 7:30. I'm like, really? Okay, because if you leave me alone and no one disrupts me, I'm pretty sure I can do like 11:30, noon sometimes if I do that. It kind of takes away most of your day, but my body's like, do it. Do it.
Sleep is important. It's so important.
Yeah. So, yeah, that's what I'm kind of dealing with. And then, yeah, like you said, opposite of you for weather, because it just started snowing a few minutes ago. It's pretty to look at, but to be in it, not so much. We've been dealing with a lot of snow here in Toronto recently. So I think I'm at the point where I'm like, you know what? I'm looking forward to some sun, some change in weather. I'm kind of over it in terms of snow. So
yeah, snow in March. I don't have a lot of grace for snow in March. It's not pretty to me at that point. I'm over it. But you do have a fun, exciting trip coming up.
Yes, I am going for a week to Antigua. Excited for that. It's I don't think I've done a vacation really like this in a while. I think 2019 actually was the last time I did a full-on 1 week designated vacation. So looking forward to that. Looking forward to just being away from this weather, somewhere where apparently it's around 27 degrees and sunny right now, which is going to be great. Although one downside I'm not looking forward to is my flight. I think it's like 6:15 in the morning. So I think I have to be at the airport like 3 a.m. So
Oh.
that's another another wrinkle where I'm like, okay. But after that, it should be good.
Okay, you're going to land. It's going to be sunny and beautiful. And instead of sleeping here with snow outside your window, you can sleep on a beach.
Yeah, looking forward to that. I'll let you know how that goes.
Please do.
But yeah, so yeah, otherwise that's been good. Do you have a reco for us this week?
I do. In true Joce fashion, it is a book. I had to recommend it because it's the first book in a while that I basically read, I think in 2 days, 1.5 days. I can't remember. I just tore through it. I could not put it down. It's called Wrong Place, Wrong Time by Gillian McAllister. And it is a very cool, unique concept. It's basically a time travel thriller murder book. That sounds kind of sinister. I really don't want to give away the plot. And when I read the back of the book, I was like, I don't know. Not sure I'm going to like this. It seems kind of like an ambitious goal to try and pull this off, but I really enjoyed it. It was very, very well written. It kept me engaged. And one thing that's relevant to the topic we're going to be speaking about today, actually, is as the main character would time travel, she would notice things when she'd go back in time about herself that she would say that she wished she hadn't taken for granted. And that seemed to be a theme throughout the book. And as somebody who is at the age that she time traveled back to, it made me really grateful for the time of life I'm in right now, the body I'm in. Just made me think twice about, griping about things that I shouldn't at the age that I'm at. So it was a great book. Highly recommend.
Okay, let's go in the show notes.
Show notes.
Okay, well, for Danny's reco this time, for this episode, it's going to be part reco with a slight complaint in there. So it's going to switch that up. So recently, Andrea and I went for a lunch at a restaurant called Alouette here in Toronto.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it's a restaurant that... Have you been?
I have.
Oh, okay. Then... Okay, let's see how this works.
Okay.
So we went, it was for an anniversary lunch. And it's a place where she wanted to go to for a while. I don't know if you knew this. So Toronto recently got a few, I think, restaurants that made it onto like the Michelin Guide.
Mm-hmm.
Now, Alouette is apparently on the Michelin Guide. I don't think it has any stars from what I can tell. I think there's a section just for like recommended restaurants for that place. But we were there. She was looking forward to it. We went, and it was a nice atmosphere. It was a small place. I did enjoy the place and the service and the food. However, I don't know if, Jocelyn, you are somebody what kind of drinks you prefer to order, but we were there for a lunchtime meal, so we both actually just got coffee. It was just like regular brewed coffee, and when we kind of finished drinking, we're like, oh, can we, get more? And I remember the waitress, she just kind of walked away. It was like, okay. And then she walked away, and then she started like speaking to different people there, like other servers. And we're like, what's going on? Why does asking for more coffee equal this? And eventually she comes back and goes, oh, well, so we're going to have to charge you more for more coffee. Do you still want more coffee? And we're like, oh, you're going to charge us for a refill? It's just brewed coffee. She's like, yeah, sorry, we have to charge you for more. We're like, no, it's okay. You know what? We'd rather not. And I was a bit surprised at that. And I didn't realize until that happened was that I guess a pet peeve of mine is for brewed coffee to be not free refill, or even some places I think they charge extra, like if you want like pop or soda for refills. That takes away my experience.
This is Azim's pet peeve too. This is so funny. This is Azim's pet peeve. For sure. Okay, keep going.
Okay, because so not only that, the coffee wasn't even like hot when they brought it to us. It was like kind of warm. It's all right. And the coffee was $4.50 each.
Wow.
For a regular cup. And we're like, damn,
For a
$4.50?
brewed coffee?
Brewed coffee, $4.50, no refills.
Yikes. Alouette. Come on, it's the details.
So it's stuff like that where I think, man, for a restaurant where you're charging the prices that they charge to show up in a Michelin guide, but then to charge on brewed coffee and those kind of things, I feel like that's wrong.
You're like, morally, this is not okay.
Yeah, I was like, this is wrong. Like, this shouldn't be a thing. I know that brewed coffee is not that expensive. I know for places that serve pop, it just comes from the machine. It's cents, to have that. So, yes, I'm recommending the restaurant because it's a nice place to check out. But I do have one gripe with that, which is no refills on coffee. So, just want to share that.
I agree with you. I think that, if it's maybe a French press or if it's a latte or something that the barista had to put time into making, I understand that. But if you're getting it from the same pot, yeah, that's not okay. Maybe their reasoning is like, if you're going to be paying this much anyway, like, why would you care about that? But I'm with you. I don't like that. It seems a little sneaky. It's not like intentionally sneaky, but it just is like, yeah.
Yeah,
I don't love that.
Like, it didn't feel sneaky exactly. At least they told us. It wasn't like they did it and then afterwards they just charged us extra kind of thing. But I felt like from a business decision point of view, it's like they made a choice.
No, you're completely right. I was going to say, I think it's amazing that your server actually came over to you and let you know that, because Azim and I have actually been at places where we've noticed after the fact when we got our bill, we got charged for the extra. And that's why I know Azim is like, this is unacceptable. But yeah. I think it's cool that the server went and double checked with you. That's a plus.
I guess that's a redeeming quality of it at the moment.
It is. I think it's a redeeming quality. I do. I like that she just didn't assume, It was good service when I went to. It was very welcoming, really cozy atmosphere. It's the downstairs part of Aloe. Like the fancy.
Wait, is the restaurant upstairs?
Yeah, there's Aloe and there's Alouette.
Oh.
I think. I've been away from Toronto for so long that maybe I'm wrong about that.
No, but... I mean, I know there are two different restaurants. I didn't know they were just one on top of the other, though. I thought they were different locations.
Oh.
But that's an assumption of mine. I don't know. Could be wrong.
Well, in any case, they're both good. But Alouette, I went with my girlfriend after work one day because it was a no reservation kind of thing, and we just both, I think, left a little early or were able to get there early and managed to get a seat, and it was just super cozy, and we had drinks and dinner, and it was lovely.
Yeah, it's nice. So other than that one part, great place.
Nice.
All right. Okay, so moving on to, I guess, the main part of today's episode is we're going to be touching on a subject that I can't, we were just discussing this earlier, Jocelyn and I, where we can't actually remember who put this onto the list of things to talk about. But I do want to say that I do think it is a subject that doesn't come up that much. I don't think I've actually sat down with anyone and talked about it. I know that it may come up here and there, but we're going to try and get into it today. And that topic is the topic of aging. We all age. I think that's kind of how it works. That's how life works. That's how time works. But I don't think we talk about it in terms of like, how do people feel about it? What does it mean to age? I know for me, just from an observation, obviously, yes, I can see people throughout different age groups, just going about their day and living their lives. But I've never really had a conversation with someone where they're talking about what it means in their life to age. And I know for someone like myself who recently turned 39, it definitely wasn't a subject that I even really thought about before, especially when I was younger. But I think now, and I think looking forward, it does, I think, warrant a conversation, or even for me by myself, just to have a think about it, to be like, oh, what does it mean? What does that do? What do I care about? Am I concerned about anything? And I know that for even just from a society point of view, I think men and women have it differently. So I thought it'd be interesting to hear what Jocelyn has to say, but I think it's just going to be more of a casual conversation on what our thoughts are when it comes to aging.
It's funny that you say that it's not a topic that you hear talked about very often, because as a woman, it's actually a topic that I think is pretty frequent in discourse in the media, at least.
Okay.
So maybe it's something that may not necessarily catch your eye when you see it, but even from my teenage years, I remember seeing advertisements for anti-aging cream and, eye cream and neck cream. And the models that were used were always like in their 40s, or definitely not quote unquote old. So the concept of aging has always been in the periphery, at least for me. To your point, I think now that I'm in my early 30s, it's something that I am thinking about more, not just from the perspective of like physically, how is it affecting me from a looks standpoint, from a vanity standpoint. I'm thinking about it more in terms of like, okay, this is a new phase in my life, and also time is finite. I think in our 20s, we seem a bit invincible. Like we know that we will age one day. We have to think about retirement one day. It's really hard to conceptualize it though. But I think a major thing that I've learned in my 30s is there are so many benefits to growing older, growing up, I guess. And I feel like I do have a different outlook on life and have learned some very important lessons just in the past few years alone than I was able to in my 20s.
So you're looking at it more, I mean, what I'm kind of gathering from just that, though, is that there's a positive in that, where I think it's more like your outlook and maturity. I think I do agree on that. I think being a bit older, a bit wiser, having dealt with more stuff and experiences, that's nice. But I think as you were saying that, I was just thinking more about, I think when it comes to aging, what's on like top of mind for me, I think, is what's more noticeable beyond like maturity and being wiser, I think, is a bit of more the physical aspects.
Okay.
So I definitely agree that when I was younger, yeah, it's like I felt invisible. You can do whatever you want, being more athletic, playing sports and so forth. But I think for me, and which for the last couple of years, I've been dealing with more like, I think, physical problems. So like having hurt myself playing basketball and having knee surgery. I think that one was a huge one for me to be like, oh, no, I'm not that young anymore. My body was like, no, I can't deal with that. And even recently, I kind of tweaked my back for a bit and things like that. It just made me feel very immobile and made me think about like, oh, my body does not like certain things like that. And I think that makes me really kind of focus in on like, oh, I'm not like 19, early 20s. Like I'm almost 40. And even though I think sometimes I do feel quite young, I don't think the body necessarily feels that way. Is that the same for you?
Okay, this is such an interesting question because there was an article, I believe it was in The Atlantic, that went a little bit viral recently that talked about how people may have a different age that they feel like than what they actually are. So what do you feel like in your head? Like when you wake up in the morning, do you feel like a 39-year-old, or do you feel younger or older? And many people apparently feel younger than the age that they actually are. I have to say, I actually do feel 32. I don't feel like I'm in my 20s anymore. I know that was an era for me and I've moved on from that era. I also don't feel older than I am. Yeah, I do feel like I'm 32. What about you?
So I do feel, if I'm not hurting, I feel younger. Yes. I think I'm definitely, I sometimes kind of go about my day like I'm in my late 20s, early 30s. But once the body hurts, if something happens, then I immediately, I'm like, yeah, no, I'm the current age. And sometimes I hear about people who deal with things when they're much younger too. So I do almost feel like, oh, actually, I went pretty long without anything happening for a while. Whereas there are people out there who I've heard and like, oh, they're like much younger. They deal with issues and physical problems and having to deal with surgery and so forth. So I still, in a way, kind of feel lucky in that sense. But day to day, if things are doing all right, I feel like I do think like, oh no, I have lots of time and, I'm just almost kind of getting started almost, I have a feeling. But even with that, yeah, I think sometimes every once in a while I look in the mirror, I'm like, oh, there's a white hair there. Okay, I wasn't there before. I don't remember seeing that. So, but I know that even for myself, I do use some skincare products. Originally, it was more out of necessity because my skin was dry and I was like, I don't know what to do with this. And then kind of learning about like, oh, moisturizers and lotion and so forth, which I know there are people out there, especially men, who are like, I just, rinse with some water and I'm good. But I think there is a lot of products. Yes, definitely the focus I feel like is on women. And I don't know if that's something that's okay or not. Or is there almost like for women, there's, like you said, it's like in the periphery, or just noticing that pressure is almost kind of always there. Is that accurate?
Yeah, I would say it's not okay. I don't think it's okay that in Hollywood, when they cast women in roles that are supposed to be like the mom or whatever, often they're like 10 years older than the actress who plays the daughter. Like women have to be young or young looking to have value. That's just the way our society is. As a man grows older, his value doesn't diminish. We use terms like, oh, he's a silver fox. But women, as they grow older, lose their desirability. I think there is definitely a cohort of women who are embracing it, and they're kind of like, screw it, this is a great thing. We don't want to have the male gaze on us. If nobody is looking at us because they think we're old and dried up, that just gives us the freedom to act and look the way we want. And like, women should do that anyway. I think that the world would be a better place if we looked at older women as being just as desirable and having just as much to contribute, if not more, than young women who don't have nearly as much life experience.
Do you see that? I'm trying to see how to phrase this one, but because I know you have, I think, younger cousins and stuff. Do you know if this kind of thing is still fairly prevalent for that generation? Basically, I'm trying to get at it, like, has times changed yet for maybe people who are younger, or is it still the same regardless?
I don't know. I think they're too young. Like when I was that age too, like I said, I was aware of aging. I was aware of the fact that, you don't see as many older women in major roles and seen as desirable as younger women. I was aware of this fact, but I was a younger woman. So it wasn't really something I had to pay attention to. I don't think that they are paying attention to it either necessarily. I think as I approach that age, because I'm still not there yet, but I am more aware of what's to come, I can be a little bit more thoughtful about it.
Okay, I see. Yeah, I think when you mention Hollywood is pretty messed up when it comes to age stuff, because even so, on top of that, where anytime there's like a mom figure, it's really not. But even like the movies or television shows where they have high school kids, but they're actually like people in like their 20s portraying
That's
high school
true.
kids.
Yeah.
That stuff I think really messes a lot of people's point of view of what that's supposed to look like. I'm like, a freshman doesn't have well-defined muscles and abs and like a mature look on his face. And I'm like, he's supposed to be 14? That makes no sense. And then I remember there's one show, I looked it up. I was like, how old is this guy? And he was like 24. I'm like, dude,
Yeah.
getting a 24 portray a 14-year-old? That's ridiculous. But that was...
It's a bit unrealistic. Yeah.
Yeah. So when you say looking forward, obviously, you know, you're not, I guess, any there, but do you have your own concerns when it comes to this topic? Or do you find you're more like, yeah, okay, we'll see what happens. And that's just life and just kind of, that's really nothing to do about it? Or do you think about it? Or what's your take on that for yourself?
I think I'm somewhere in the middle. I'm excited to get older. I think that the older I've become, the more comfortable I've become with who I am. So from like an emotional, internal point of view, I think it can only get better. I love the person I am today, and I'm so much more impressed by 32-year-old me than I am by like even 29-year-old me. It's been a good glow up. From a physical standpoint, I do have to say that I feel like I'm in really good shape and take care of myself because I have made it a priority to exercise. And this is more of a result of the pandemic and being able to work from home and shifting my priorities that way. So from a health perspective, knocking on wood, I don't actually notice too much of a difference between me a few years ago and me now, except maybe it only takes 2 drinks to get me lit. Whereas before I don't know how I used to be able to do shots and all that stuff and not die the next day. That's like maybe the only major change. Yeah, looking ahead, it might be really hard for me to see wrinkles form on my face and compare pictures of myself at an older age to me now or to me younger. I know I have girlfriends who get Botox, and I'm like, maybe I should do that. Maybe that's something that I want to do. I don't think there's any shame in it. I think if it makes you feel as good on the outside as you feel on the inside, more power to you. Go for it. I'm just not there yet. So I want to say I don't know. Like, I'm not 100% sure if I'll look in the mirror and, you know, see an older face and feel really sad about it, or if it's something I'll have an easier time accepting.
Interesting. Yeah. I don't know how I will feel as well. I don't know if the society pressure feels a bit different. So I'm more like, it's okay. As a guy, I'm like, yeah, it's not, I want to say more accepted, but it seems a bit off too. Just like, oh, it's more normalized, I think. Like, oh yeah, no, it's fine, Danny. You're gonna get older. You'll age well because that's what you've been told by society and media. It's like, oh, don't worry, you're a guy. It's fine. You're good. So I don't know how I would necessarily treat it when I notice more of those, like looking in the mirror and things. I think it just, these days, it's more like, oh, if I have a very late night, for example, the next day, I'm like, oh man, I better not book anything for the next day because I know it's going to take me a long time to recover and feel normal again. So I think it's more like day-to-day lifestyle. I feel it more compared to my 20s.
I think, and this would probably be its entire own episode, but one thing as I get older and when I'm older, I think might be a little bit more relevant is knowing that, you know, I only have X number of years left. And that seems a bit morbid. It's probably not something that I'll think about in the next decade or maybe even 2 decades. But, you know, I think the midlife crisis, like that term, I think it's real and it's something that seems foreign to us at our age. But, you know, there comes a point where I'm sure you look at your life and you realize that half of it is behind you, and you wonder, what's ahead? And have I lived my life with purpose? And do I need to course correct? I think I've already done that. We all kind of do that in our 20s and 30s, maybe, where you're thinking about like what you've been taught and how you've implemented it, and is it really what you want? And we're sort of bumbling along trying to figure that out in this stage of life. But after doing that and like really putting some years of life behind you, that term crisis, I think it's named that for a reason. And yeah, I just wonder if I'll get to that point and feel that way, or if it's iterative and year over year, maybe I'll be able to course correct a little bit.
Yeah, I think midlife crisis, I'm thinking like, okay, if it's midlife for me now, that means life is around 78 years to 80 years. I'm like, ooh, if that's the case, if we're halfway. But I feel like for me, I think, I feel like as time has changed for a lot of people, I feel like for a lot of people, maybe instead of midlife crisis, it should be more like quarter life crisis. I think a lot of things happen way earlier than they are these days. So,
yeah, for sure.
Yeah, it's definitely something I think that's on my mind. So yeah, that's something I think about as well. Even now, even before, I think it's something that I've kind of dealt with, or just kind of like here and there thinking about that idea in that subject, probably younger than for you. However, I think because today we're on a time crunch, I think we're going to have to end things here. I'm pretty sure I have more things that we can go over, so maybe we'll do a second one regarding this topic. Justin, is there anything else you want to add for this one?
I would just say, I think we probably do have a range of age demographics who listen to us. So if you have any thoughts on aging, we'd love to hear them. You can email us at whycan'twepodcast@gmail.com or send us a DM on Instagram. The handle is at whycan'twepodcast.
Awesome. Thank you very much. And that's it for this week's episode. Justin, it was nice to talk to you again. And for listeners, we will talk to you again next time. Take care.
Bye.
Bye.